The lights in the library flickered as they always did at closing time. A poor student helped a stranger study, only to learn they were the dean's son who got them a scholarship. But that revelation was weeks away, and tonight, Eliza Chen had more immediate concerns, like how to stretch her last $27 until her next paycheck. 15 minutes until closing, called the librarian, her voice echoing through the nearly empty building. Eliza glanced up from her textbook, blinking away the fatigue that had settled deep in her bones. Her fingers were stained with highlighter ink, her notes sprawled across the wooden table in organized chaos. 3 more chapters before her chemistry exam tomorrow. She could do this. She had to. The harsh fluorescent lighting made her eyes ache, but it was better than the dim bulb in her cramped studio apartment where the heat barely worked. February in Massachusetts was unforgiving, especially when winter coats were luxury items. Eliza pulled her threadbare sweater tighter around her shoulders and returned to the complex molecular equations that might, someday, help her escape poverty. Her mother's voice echoed in her memory. "Education is the only thing they can't take from you, Eliza." Her mom had cleaned hotel rooms for 20 years with dreams of her daughter becoming a doctor, dreams cut short by cancer 3 years ago. Now, every textbook page Eliza turned was both a promise and a burden. A sudden thud and muttered curse from a nearby table broke her concentration. A young man with disheveled dark hair had dropped a stack of books. He was gathering them with frantic energy, glancing anxiously at his watch. Eliza returned to her studies. Not her problem. She had she checked her phone, 13 minutes left to memorize the properties of carbon compounds. Excuse me? She looked up to find the same young man standing awkwardly beside her table. Up close, she noticed his expensive watch, the kind that cost more than her semester's tuition, contrasting sharply with his rumpled appearance. "I'm sorry to bother you," he said, voice tight with stress, "but I noticed you're studying organic chemistry. Are you in Professor Whitman's class?" Eliza nodded cautiously. "Yeah, I'm completely lost on these cyclic compounds, and there's a quiz tomorrow that I absolutely cannot fail." He ran his hand through his already messy hair. "I'm Alex, by the way. Would you mind, I know the library's closing, but maybe you could explain this concept? I'd be really grateful." Something in his desperate expression reminded Eliza of herself. Despite his obvious privilege, the cashmere sweater, the designer shoes, his eyes held the same panic she felt daily. 10 minutes, she said, gesturing to the chair across from her. "That's all I can spare." Relief washed over his face. "Thank you. Seriously, thank you." Those 10 minutes turned into 20 as they huddled outside the library in the bitter cold. Eliza found herself explaining mechanisms with her breath forming clouds in the frigid air, her fingers numb but her mind sharp. Alex was attentive, asking smart questions that challenged even her understanding. "You explain this better than the professor," he admitted as they finished. "How do you understand it so clearly?" Eliza shrugged. "I don't have a choice. I need an A to keep my partial scholarship." She hadn't meant to reveal that much, but exhaustion had loosened her guard. To her surprise, Alex didn't offer pity or uncomfortable silence, just a nod of understanding. "Same time tomorrow?" he asked hesitantly. "I can bring coffee. Or tea if you prefer." The sensible answer was no. Every minute spent tutoring was a minute not spent on her own studies or picking up extra shifts at the campus coffee shop. But there was something earnest about Alex's request that wore down her resistance. "Tea. Earl Grey?" she said finally. "And bring your notes organized this time." His smile was unexpectedly warm. "Deal." Eliza didn't realize it then, standing in that parking lot with snow beginning to dust her shoulders. But that moment, that simple yes to helping a stranger, would alter the course of her life. Their study sessions became a regular occurrence. Twice a week, they'd claim the same corner table in the library's 3rd floor. Alex always arrived with 2 cups of tea and occasionally smuggled in cookies from the bakery downtown, little luxuries Eliza would never allow herself. "The chocolate ones are the best," he insisted during their 3rd session, sliding a cookie across the table. "Brain food." Eliza hesitated before taking a small bite. The rich sweetness melted on her tongue, an indulgence that made her close her eyes momentarily. When she opened them, Alex was watching her with an odd expression. "What?" she asked defensively. "Nothing," he replied, turning back to his notes. "Just, you looked happy for a second there." The observation caught her off guard. Was happiness so rare for her that it was noteworthy? The thought lingered uncomfortably as they returned to discussing valence electrons. As weeks passed, their conversations gradually extended beyond chemistry. Alex told her about growing up with expectations hanging over him like storm clouds. Eliza shared stories of her mother, surprised by how easily the memories flowed after years of keeping them locked away. "She sounds amazing," Alex said one evening as they packed up their books. "Working 2 jobs to support you, never complaining." "She was," Eliza agreed, her throat tightening. "Everything I do is for her." Alex reached across the table, his fingers lightly touching her hand. "She'd be proud of you. Not everyone would take time to help a hopeless case like me." The warmth of his touch lingered long after she'd returned to her cold apartment. What puzzled Eliza was why someone like Alex needed her help at all. He was clearly intelligent, grasping concepts quickly once properly explained. Yet something about the academic environment seemed to paralyze him. "It's the pressure," he admitted during their 5th session. "Everyone's always watching, waiting for me to succeed or fail spectacularly." "Who's watching?" she asked, genuinely curious. He shrugged, suddenly fascinated by his pen. "Just people." Despite these moments of openness, Alex remained mysterious about his life outside their study sessions. He never mentioned family, never specified his major. Occasionally, he'd receive calls that he'd step away to answer, his voice dropping to a whisper. Eliza told herself she didn't care. They weren't friends. She was helping him study. The fact that she looked forward to their sessions, that she found herself smiling when his text messages appeared on her phone, these were irrelevant details. Meanwhile, her own situation grew increasingly precarious. Her landlord had raised the rent. The coffee shop cut her hours. One night, she arrived at the library with dark circles under her eyes and a slight tremor in her hands. "Are you okay?" Alex asked immediately. "Fine," she said curtly. "Let's focus on hydrogen bonding." But halfway through the session, her stomach growled loudly enough that both of them heard it. Eliza felt her cheeks burn with embarrassment. "When did you last eat?" Alex asked quietly. "I had coffee this morning," she replied, avoiding his eyes. Without a word, he packed up their books. "Come on, where are we going?" "We're not finished with food first, chemistry second," he said firmly. "I know a place." The place turned out to be a small Italian restaurant several blocks from campus. It looked expensive, white tablecloths, soft lighting, waiters in crisp shirts. Eliza stopped at the entrance. "I can't afford this," she whispered. Alex's expression softened. "My treat. Please, Eliza. You've helped me for weeks. Let me do this one thing." Pride warred with hunger in her chest. Pride lost. Over plates of pasta richer than anything she'd eaten in months, their conversation flowed more freely than ever before. Alex told her about his passion for environmental science, his dream of developing sustainable energy solutions. Eliza shared her hope of becoming a research chemist, finding treatments for diseases like the one that took her mother. "Why don't you apply for full scholarships?" he asked. "With your grades, you'd qualify for dozens." Eliza twirled pasta around her fork. "I've applied for everything I could find. But there are always students with better extracurriculars, better connections. I don't have time for clubs or internships. I'm too busy working." Something flickered across Alex's face, sadness perhaps, or frustration. "The system's broken," he muttered. "It is what it is," Eliza replied with practiced detachment. "I'll make it work." As they left the restaurant, snow began falling again, soft flakes glowing in the streetlights. Alex insisted on walking her home despite her protests. They moved through the quiet streets, their breaths synchronizing in the cold air. "Thank you," she said finally, stopping outside her apartment building. "For dinner." "Thank you," he countered. "For everything else." He looked like he wanted to say more, snow gathering on his eyelashes, his expression unreadable in the dim light. Instead, he simply squeezed her hand and turned to leave. Eliza watched him go, an unfamiliar ache in her chest. For the first time in years, she'd allowed herself to relax in someone's company, to forget, if only for an evening, the weight she carried. She didn't know then that Alex was carrying secrets of his own. 3 days later, Eliza received an email that made her heart stop. "Congratulations on being selected for the Hawthorne Foundation STEM Excellence Scholarship. This award covers full tuition, room, and board, and includes a stipend for research materials." She read it 4 times, certain it was a mistake. She hadn't applied for this scholarship. She'd never even heard of it. At the bottom of the email was a note. "Please meet with Dean Richardson on Friday at 2 p.m. to discuss the details of your award. Dean Richardson." The name sent a chill through her. Everyone at Westmere University knew the Dean of Sciences, a brilliant, intimidating man who rarely interacted with undergraduates. What could he possibly want with her? For 2 days, Eliza oscillated between wild hope and crushing suspicion that it was all an administrative error. She texted Alex about the scholarship but received no response. Their study session that week had been canceled. He'd claimed a family emergency. Friday arrived, crisp and bright. Eliza wore her only professional outfit, black pants with a nearly invisible mended seam and a blue blouse she'd found at a thrift store. Her hands trembled slightly as she approached the imposing administration building. Dean Richardson's office was exactly as she'd imagined, wood-paneled walls lined with books, certificates, and photographs. The man himself rose from behind an enormous desk as she entered, tall, with silver-streaked dark hair and penetrating eyes. "Ms. Chen?" he said, gesturing to a chair. "Please, sit down." Eliza perched on the edge of the seat, clutching her bag. "Sir, I think there's been a mistake. I never applied for the Hawthorne scholarship." The dean smiled slightly. "No mistake. The committee reviewed student records and selected you based on your exceptional academic performance despite challenging circumstances." Something in his tone made her uneasy. "What committee? I've never heard of this scholarship before." "It's relatively new," he replied smoothly. "Established by a university benefactor who believes in supporting talented students facing financial hardship." Eliza's mind raced. It sounded too good to be true, which meant it probably was. "With all due respect, sir," she said carefully, "full scholarships don't just fall from the sky." "Why me? Why now, halfway through the semester?" The dean studied her for a long moment, his expression unreadable. Then he reached for his phone. "I think it's time you met someone." The door opened behind her. Eliza turned and froze. Alex stood in the doorway, his usually casual appearance transformed by a tailored suit. His eyes met hers, filled with apprehension. "Hi, Eliza," he said softly. "You know my son, I believe," said Dean Richardson. The world tilted beneath Eliza's feet. Son? Alex was the dean's son? The pieces came together with sickening clarity. The mysterious calls, his vague references to pressure, his reluctance to discuss his family. "You lied to me," she whispered. Alex stepped forward. "I didn't lie. I just didn't tell you everything." "Alexander was impressed by your tutoring skills," the dean interjected. "He brought your situation to my attention. The scholarship is legitimate, Ms. Chen. You've earned it." Earned it? Or received it through pity and connection, exactly what she'd told Alex she didn't want. Heat rose to her face, a humiliating mixture of anger and shame. "I don't need charity," she said, standing abruptly. "Especially not from people who deceived me." "Eliza, please." Alex moved toward her. "It's not charity. You deserve this more than anyone." "Did you enjoy it?" she demanded, voice cracking. "Playing the struggling student? Was helping the poor girl your good deed for the semester?" Pain flashed across his face. "That's not fair. I needed help with chemistry. That part was real. Everything between us was real." The dean cleared his throat. "Perhaps I should give you two a moment." "Don't bother," Eliza said, gathering her bag. "I'm leaving. And I'm declining the scholarship. Ms. Chen." The dean's voice hardened slightly. "Don't make a hasty decision you'll regret. This opportunity, thank you for your time." She cut him off, a lifetime of politeness preventing her from being truly rude to an authority figure. Then she brushed past Alex without meeting his eyes and fled the office. Outside, the bright day seemed to mock her. Eliza walked blindly, her vision blurred with unshed tears. She'd been so stupid opening up to Alex, believing they had a genuine connection. All along, he'd probably seen her as a charity case, the poor, struggling girl who needed saving. Her phone buzzed continuously with texts from Alex, but she ignored them all. That night, she worked a double shift at the coffee shop, mechanically filling orders while her mind replayed every moment with him, searching for signs she'd missed. 3 days passed. Eliza threw herself into studying, picked up extra shifts, avoided the library entirely. Sleep became elusive, her thoughts cycling between anger at Alex's deception and despair at having rejected a life-changing scholarship out of pride. On the 4th day, she found a letter slipped under her apartment door. The handwriting was unmistakably Alex's, slightly messy but deliberate. "Eliza, I understand why you're angry. I should have told you who I was from the beginning. But I need you to know something. The first time I asked for your help, it wasn't planned. I really was failing chemistry, really did need your help. My father had nothing to do with it. What I didn't tell you is why I was failing. I have dyslexia. Numbers and symbols jumble together when I'm stressed. My father, brilliant, accomplished Dean Richardson, has never fully accepted this weakness in his son. I was trying to prove I could succeed without accommodations, without being the dean's son with special treatment. Then I met you. You explained concepts in ways that finally made sense to me. You never made me feel stupid or broken. For the first time, I felt like I might actually belong in the sciences. The scholarship wasn't my idea, it was my father's. After I mentioned your situation, he looked up your records and was genuinely impressed. The Hawthorne Foundation is real, named after my grandmother, and you earned that scholarship with your brilliant mind and incredible work ethic. I'm sorry I wasn't completely honest, but our friendship wasn't a lie. Those evenings in the library, our conversations, they meant everything to me. The scholarship offer still stands. Please don't punish yourself for my mistake. Alex. Eliza read the letter twice, then sat heavily on her bed. Dyslexia. It explained so much. His intelligence coupled with his struggle with written material, his frustration with timed quizzes. The revelation softened her anger, but confusion remained. She'd spent years believing that people like Alex, people born into privilege, couldn't possibly understand her struggles. Yet he had his own battles, invisible but real. After a restless night, Eliza made her decision. She would meet with Dean Richardson again, not for Alex, but for herself and for her mother's memory. Pride wouldn't pay her rent or fulfill her dreams of becoming a research chemist. This time she requested the meeting via email. The dean's response was prompt. My office tomorrow, 10 a.m. Dean Richardson looked tired when Eliza entered his office the next morning. He gestured to the chair she'd occupied during their previous meeting. Ms. Chen, I'm glad you reconsidered talking with me. I've been thinking about the scholarship, she said directly. I'd like to know more about it. The real details, not the version you think will make me feel better. A hint of respect flickered in his eyes. Fair enough. The Hawthorne Foundation has existed for 5 years, funding 4 full scholarships annually. Recipients are selected based on academic merit, financial need, and potential impact in their field. While Alexander did bring your name to my attention, your selection was based entirely on your qualifications. And there are no special conditions? No expectations beyond academic performance? None, he confirmed, though I hope you'll consider mentoring future students. Your ability to explain complex concepts clearly is remarkable, according to my son and your professors. Eliza absorbed this information, searching for hidden angles and finding none. Why didn't Alex tell me who he was from the beginning? The dean's expression softened slightly. Alexander has spent his life trying to escape my shadow. When people know he's my son, they treat him differently, either with unearned deference or with elevated expectations. With you, he could just be himself. The explanation rang true, echoing what Alex had written in his letter. Has he told you about his dyslexia? She asked carefully. Dean Richardson stiffened almost imperceptibly. He mentioned that he shared that information with you. He said you've never fully accepted it. A long silence stretched between them. When the dean finally spoke, his voice was quieter than before. My relationship with my son is complicated. I pushed him toward excellence because I believed in his potential. Perhaps I pushed too hard in the wrong directions. He straightened some papers on his desk, a nervous gesture that humanized him unexpectedly. Alexander has shown more passion and determination in the past few months than I've seen in years. He credits you with that change. Eliza felt a flush of warmth at the words, quickly suppressed. I'd like to accept the scholarship, she said firmly, but I want to earn it. No special treatment. I wouldn't expect anything less, replied the dean, extending his hand. Welcome to the Hawthorne program, Ms. Chen. As they shook hands, Eliza felt a weight lift from her shoulders, the constant pressure of financial insecurity that had been her companion for so long. But another weight remained: what to do about Alex. She found him in the university greenhouse, tending to plants labeled for an environmental science project. Sunlight filtered through the glass ceiling, casting dappled patterns across his concentrated face. He looked up when the door opened, his expression transforming from surprise to cautious hope. Eliza, he said, setting down his watering can. You got my letter? I did. She moved carefully between rows of greenery, stopping a few feet from him. I also spoke with your father again. I'm accepting the scholarship. Relief washed over his features. That's great. You deserve it more than anyone. Why didn't you tell me about your dyslexia sooner? She asked. I could have adapted our study methods. Alex looked down, fingers fidgeting with a plant leaf. The same reason you never complained about working double shifts or having no heat in your apartment. Pride, I guess. And fear that you'd see me differently. The honesty in his voice resonated with something deep inside her. How many times had she hidden her own struggles, determined to appear strong and self-sufficient? I understand secrets, she said quietly. But friendship requires trust. Are we still friends then? He asked, vulnerability naked in his expression. Eliza considered the question. The anger that had burned so brightly had dimmed, leaving confusion and something else, something warmer and more complicated. I don't know what we are, she admitted. But I'd like to find out. No more secrets this time. The smile that spread across Alex's face was like sunrise after the longest night. No more secrets, he agreed. Though I should probably tell you one more thing. She raised an eyebrow. What now? You're secretly royalty? Worse, he said with a short laugh. I'm applying to be your lab partner in advanced chemistry next semester. If that's okay? The tension between them broke. Eliza found herself smiling back. Only if you promise to bring those chocolate cookies to lab sessions. Deal. Sunlight streamed through the greenhouse glass, warming her face as they stood among growing things. There would be more conversations, more revelations, more understanding to build. But for now, this moment of new beginning was enough. Spring arrived at Westmere University, melting away the last traces of winter. Eliza moved into campus housing, a small but comfortable room that was all her own, with reliable heat and a desk by the window where she could study without her fingers going numb. The Hawthorne Scholarship had transformed her life in ways both dramatic and subtle. Without the constant pressure of financial survival, she discovered energy for research projects, for occasional movies with newfound friends, for sleeping more than 5 hours a night. And then there was Alex. Their relationship had evolved cautiously at first, rebuilding trust through honest conversations and shared silence. He'd shown her his diagnostic reports and the specialized techniques he used to manage his dyslexia. She'd taken him to her mother's grave, introducing them in whispered words while he stood respectfully beside her. Today, they sat beneath a blooming cherry tree on the main quad, spring sunshine warming their faces. Alex was reading aloud from a scientific journal, a technique that helped him process complex information, while Eliza closed her eyes, listening to the cadence of his voice mixing with birdsong. "Did I tell you?" she said when he paused. "Doctor. Myers offered me a position in her summer research program." Alex set down the journal. "Eliza, that's amazing. Her cancer research is groundbreaking." "I start next month," she continued, unable to keep the excitement from her voice. "Working on targeted drug delivery systems, exactly the kind of research that might have helped my mom." He reached for her hand, entwining their fingers. "She would be so proud of you." "Sometimes I still can't believe this is my life," she admitted. "A year ago, I was worried about making rent. Now I'm planning research that could help people." "You were always going to do extraordinary things," Alex said with quiet confidence. "The scholarship just cleared some obstacles." Eliza squeezed his hand. "And you? Have you told your father about changing your major?" A shadow crossed his face. "Not yet, but I will. Environmental engineering is where I belong. Organic chemistry was always his dream for me, not mine." "He might surprise you?" Eliza suggested. "He's not exactly warm and fuzzy, but he cares about you." The relationship between Alex and his father had thawed slightly in recent months. Dean Richardson had even attended a dyslexia awareness lecture at his son's invitation, a small step that meant everything to Alex. "Maybe," he conceded. "Things are changing." Slowly, a comfortable silence fell between them. Across the quad, students hurried to classes or lounged on the grass, enjoying the perfect spring day. Eliza watched them, realizing she finally felt like she belonged among them, not as an outsider struggling to survive, but as a student with purpose and potential. "I have something for you," Alex said suddenly, reaching into his backpack. He pulled out a small wrapped package. "It's not much, but..." Eliza unwrapped it carefully to find a leather-bound journal, the cover embossed with chemical formulas in a decorative border. "Open it," he urged. Inside, on the first page, he'd written, "For all your breakthrough discoveries. The world is waiting for them." Emotion welled in her throat. "Alex, it's beautiful." "There's one more thing," he said, his voice slightly nervous. He reached into his pocket and extracted a folded piece of paper. "This came yesterday." Eliza unfolded it to find a letter from the university housing office, confirming Alex's apartment assignment for the fall semester. "You're staying?" she asked, surprised. "I thought you were considering that exchange program in Switzerland." "I was," he admitted, "but I realized everything I want is right here." His eyes met hers, warm and certain. "The environmental program is excellent, and there's this amazing chemistry student who explains concepts better than anyone. I'm hoping she might still be willing to study with me occasionally." The simple declaration held layers of meaning between them. Eliza felt a flush of warmth that had nothing to do with the spring sunshine. "I think that could be arranged," she said softly. "Though her rates have gone up. Premium tutoring now costs 1 dinner and unlimited tea." Alex laughed, the sound bright in the clear air. "Steep but fair." He leaned forward then, hesitating just a breath away from her. Eliza closed the distance between them, their kiss gentle and certain beneath the falling cherry blossoms. When they parted, she rested her forehead against his. "Who would have thought," she whispered, "that helping a stranger study would change everything?" "Not everything changed," Alex replied, brushing a petal from her hair. "You were brilliant before you met me, and you would have found your way eventually. I'm just grateful I got to be part of the journey." Around them, the campus hummed with life and possibility. Eliza thought of her mother, of the long road that had brought her here, of the uncertain but hopeful path ahead. The scholarship had opened doors, but it was human connection, the willingness to help a stranger, to be vulnerable, to forgive, that had truly transformed her life. As they gathered their books and walked hand in hand toward the science building, Eliza felt a profound sense of peace. The future remained unwritten, but for perhaps the first time, she faced it not just with determination, but with joy.